Hi
DC.
everyone.
Hi, John. Good afternoon, Baba.
Good
Right,
afternoon, everyone.
I'm going to put on my folk festival hat because that's where I am, in a field where it's pouring down, and of course it just started pouring down before I had time to get down my storytelling shelter before my last set.
Of course,
So
it's
let me
England,
get
John.
this right.
It's the British weather.
You're in a field wearing a hat. Okay, so John, you'll get this. I don't know if anybody else will. You're in a field wearing a hat. Are there any McCoys around?
No.
Oh, okay.
Well, unless there's a few people named McCoy. There's some very strange named people in this field.
But there's no feuding going on.
No feuding.
Oh, very
Well,
good.
there will
you
be.
got that.
There'll
All
be,
right.
Very good.
Right. Oh, are we? We're in Facebook. So
Yeah, we're in Facebook. And we've got Baden now.
right, everyone else apart from Baba C. Ladies and gentlemen, girls and boys, an assembled company, and strange creatures, and wherever you are, it's and whatever time of day it is, hello. And it's Sunday night at the World Storytelling Cafe. And tonight we are connecting the world by stories, by hopefully when the Griots meet. But the Griots are mystical creatures,
Yes,
and they may be traveling by all sorts of means. At the moment, we only have one with us. Baden Prince will join, and Sola will join.
Baden is here, John. Baden is here.
Baden is here. I can't see this because I'm announcing this on my phone through. I'll show you my windscreen and the rain. There you go. There's the windscreen and the rain and the caravans, etc. But so I'm going to stop rambling on. And I'm going to pass over to Baba C, who will undoubtedly pass over to Baden Prince, and someone will pass to Sola if he gets here. And Ali, of course, will be driving the magic carpet. Jasnami will be making sure everything is in order, and Mike Factory will just be relaxing. So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together and welcome Baba C.
Thank you. Asante Sana. Wow. Before we get started, I just want to address two things. And so especially to the young storytellers, the up and coming storytellers, never feel that you have to apologize or not repeat a story. The more you tell a story, the better you become at the telling. And the better you become at the telling, the more you discover different ways of telling that same story. So you don't have to apologize. You ate yesterday, you ate today, and you will eat tomorrow. When something is good, you do it more than once. So never apologize for sharing a story more than once. It just means you're getting better and better. All right. Second thing, I'm supposed to be wearing a crown today. It's supposed to be sitting straight up, but it kept sagging to the side. I don't know if that's a statement about where I am in life. As I get older, things are beginning to sag to the side or just sag. So I'm just tossing that out there. Okay. Excuse me. The air in the DMV, the District of Columbia, Maryland, and Virginia, has a unique pollution that I've been sharing and telling you guys about. It's called Congress. And sometimes, in addition to the other allergies, it causes you to cough. All right. So I want to share a story with you. And this story, you have to forgive me for not doing my traditional long time ago, because my microphone keeps cutting me out. So in your head, I want you to be thinking long time ago, okay? So it's summertime, and the living's easy. I'm not gonna sing, okay. Baden said, thank goodness for that. All right, so how many of you have ever been bitten by a mosquito? Hands. All right, So I gotta tell you something. You've never been bitten by a mosquito. Mosquitoes don't have teeth. You've been stabbed, stuck, probed by mosquitoes, but never bitten, but that's okay. The guys are like this. Only the female mosquitoes actually do the so-called biting. Yeah, that's true. Now, have you ever wondered why mosquitoes kind of buzz around your ears? And if you've ever wondered why mosquitoes buzz around your ears, listen carefully to this story of stories. You see, a long time ago, the iguana was
Bubba's frozen, John.
It's frozen.
He's frozen.
Bubba will unfreeze. Let's
While we're waiting,
we'll have to wait.
okay.
We'll wait.
While we're waiting for Baba to come back, can I just tell you very quickly something about mosquitoes? If he comes back in, cut me out. Can you hear me,
Cut
guys?
yourself out.
Can you
Yeah,
hear me?
brilliant.
Right. The mosquitoes in the Caribbean are absolutely ferocious, right? And when I was growing up, we used to have to do this thing. They come out in the evening at nighttime. So early in the evening, around 5:30, 5:45, just before it gets dark, we used to have to do a thing where we went through the house, closed all the windows, and then we had this thing called flit. I mean, it was probably poisonous and, you know, giving people cancer, but it was a kind of insecticide. And it came in a little can with a sort of tube with a pump attached to it called a flit gun. And actually that was the generic brand name. So we'd go through the house and we'd spray the stuff everywhere and then go outside, keep the house locked up for like 10 minutes. And it would kill all the mosquitoes so that you'd have a peaceful night's sleep. So I left Antigua in 1980, came to England, went back, and went back after a few years. 1970 I left, went back in 1980. And this particular evening, and this is a true story, Mike, faculty, you may have mosquitoes where you live, so you can probably bear me out with this. And the mosquitoes had grown bigger and uglier and tougher. So my grandmother said to me, Junior, that's what they called me in the family, go and flip the house. And she gave me the flip gun with the can and I filled it up. And I went in the house down to the back room. And as I reached the passageway and was about to open the door, this cloud of mosquitoes came towards me. And I thought, yeah, I got your number. And I sort of pulled the pump handle back and went, psst, psst, psst. They didn't bat an eyelid. And the lead mosquito came straight up to me, grabbed the flip gun out of my hand, unscrewed the cap, threw away the pump, drank the contents of the container, chucked it to one side, looked me square in the eye and said, now what you gonna do? Man, I turned around and I ran out of the house, locked the door. My grandmother saw me come belting through the door. She said, where are you going? I said, have you seen the size of the mosquito? She said, why do you think I sent you to flip the house? And that is a true story.
I've missed listening to you, Baden, I tell you, with some cracking stories. So good to hear you tell one like that.
I look at that for timing, and Baba C is back.
I think I'm back. Can you hear me?
Yep.
All right. So my I guess people in Congress heard me talk because they have ears everywhere. So I'm back on my backup computer. You can still hear me? All right.
Yeah.
So there's disadvantages because I can't see everything So should I continue my story? Hayden, you already started.
Your sound is a little bit
Can't hear me?
shaky.
All right, so let me see if I can adjust that.
Yeah.
Oh, I know what's happening. Let me see.
Just
I got
Nami,
Sola
can you
online.
pop across to Washington, DC and sort him out? We need a child.
I got
Is
Sola.
that any better? Nope. Now I can't hear you at all. So, Baden, sugar. Okay, can you hear me now? No.
Yes.
You've disappeared again. Can't hear you.
1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2. Oh, the challenges. If you can hear me, Baden, start the story, and as soon as I get audio, I'll join in.
Baba C, can you see the chat? Yeah. Yeah.
Shall we go to Baden and then come back to Baba C later and see if
Okay,
it's better?
if you can hear me,
Ah,
Baden, tell the story.
okay.
Iffy.
Okay. Okay.
I can hear you guys, but if you can hear me, Baden, tell the story. Thank you.
Okay. Baba C has asked me to tell a story in the meantime. Um, I'm so unprepared. Oh my goodness. What shall I do? Well, what I am going to do is I'm going to. Is my sound okay? Yeah. Okay. I'm going to recite you a poem because what's little known is that when I first embarked on this artistic journey, I was actually a poet first and foremost, and I was doing that for quite a while. The storytelling is something I've become involved in relatively recently, so maybe the last 7 or 8 years or so. God, it's been a long time. And recently, I've had a few opportunities to go back and do some poetry, including last Sunday. Mike wants me to talk about griots. Well, Baba C is a griot, and so is Sola. And they will, as much as I know, is that it's a tradition in South Africa where the griot is the keeper of the history of a people. But it really would be better for Baba C and Sola to talk. It's more with, I mean, I know a thing or two, but I think I would be happier you hearing it more from actual practitioners and people who classify themselves as griots. Although, ironically, what I'm about to do is very much in the griot tradition. The poem I'm going to recite is a poem called Bare Feet. And it's a poem that I wrote when I was commissioned to do a piece of work with a couple of other artists coming up to the Olympics. And we all got together. There was a fellow writer and a photographer who said he knew nothing about sport, wasn't interested in sport, couldn't care less about sport. And the only thing he knew was the story of the first athlete from the continent of Africa to win Olympic gold. And he proceeded to tell me the story of this man who's called Abebe Bikila, who was a marathon runner, who won gold at the Rome Olympics in 1960, I believe it was, in bare feet. And it's an absolutely astonishing story. And the man himself, his life story is incredible. I'd advise you to look it up and read up on him. Essentially, he wasn't picked for the team, so he didn't make the cut. And then the athlete who was picked for the team got injured. So they sent for Bikila. Bikila arrives at the training camp and finds that there's not a pair of running shoes that fit him properly. Now, can you imagine that in the current era of these spoiled athletes and pampered, prima donnas and dancing divas? Can you imagine Usain Bolt arriving at the Olympics and finding out that they'd lost his box of shoes? I mean, he'd be on the phone to the president of Nike. He'd be on the phone to Richard Branson, and there'd be a playload of trainers on their way from the States within 5 minutes. Nothing like that in 1960. No agents, no nothing. So Bikila turns up, can't find a pair of shoes. And what does he do? He turns around to the coach and says, "No shoes? No problem. I'll do it barefoot." And he did. He ran the marathon in bare feet and won, thus creating history and, coincidentally, starting the dynasty, the tradition of long distance and middle distance running in Africa that continues to this day. So the next time there's an athletics event and you happen to be watching it and you see a long line of tall, thin black guys come around the corner, and then a long gap, and then the rest of the field, this is owing to Abebe Bikila, because he started the tradition that led on to Kipachenge Kano in the early 70s and on to Haile Gebrselassie, who I think is the current world legend marathon record holder. And interestingly, that monopoly, which has carried on unbroken since 1960, was only challenged when a certain Mohammed Farah at the 2012 Olympics in London won the 5,000 meters and the 10,000 meters, thus breaking the stranglehold that East African and North African runners had on long and middle distance runner. Wait a minute, hold on a minute. Did I say Mohammed Farah? Yeah. Hold on. So let me stop. Let me just think. So Mohammed Farah from Somalia. Who came to England as a refugee, was naturalized and adopted, and was very proud to be able to repay Britain by running and representing the country, and is the only athlete to have actually broken that hold. And to my money, and this is a personal thing now, should have actually won British Sports Personality of the Year in 2012. Instead, they gave it to Bradley Wiggins, who was a cyclist, who basically sits down for a living. And who, you know, if there are any Bradley Wiggins fans out there, or any of you are related to him or know anybody connected to him, I'm sorry. I'm sure Bradley Wiggins is a very nice guy, but he's got the personality of a wet paper bag. And he's got red sideburns. I mean, come on. So they gave it to Bradley Wiggins when Mohammed Farah, along with Usain Bolt, to me, were the two outstanding characters and personalities of that Olympics. I will never forgive the British Board of Athletics and the British Sports Writers Association and the Amateur Athletics Federation and that guy who broadcasts on LBC and the sports writer of The Sun for not actually handing that award to Mo Farah, because he deserved it. And the message that would have sent out about Britain in 2012 would have been phenomenal. And they really missed the chance there and showed themselves up. I'm sorry. But anyway, so this photographer told me this story about a Bebe Bikala. And I completely, it just blew my mind. I'd never heard of him, didn't know anything about the story. And for 11 days, I walked around going, bare feet. That guy ran a marathon in bare feet. And just to emphasize the fact, I live in Brixton in South London and work in Wood Green and drive to work every day. A journey of, wait for it, 13 miles. It's a 26-mile round trip. So every day I drive to work over that period, I have the opportunity to go, Jesus Christ, this is the distance that that guy ran. I'm driving to work. No, Shane, I'm driving to work and I'm going, bloody traffic. Oh, this is taking me too long. 2 hours. And I get home and oh God, that blooming I'm knackered. Get me a drink. I need to sit down and put my feet up. And I'm driving a car. This guy ran without shoes on his feet. And after 11 days, this poem emerged. It's called Bare Feet. At first sight of early morning light, an African child wakes, takes off for school. Bare feet stepping on bare earth, cool breeze kissing bare skin. As he runs, he dreams of a time when he will race to win. When hundreds, thousands, bare people watching him as he runs, bare feet skipping across cold concrete, winning marathons. Years pass. Now he's got bare gold, medals, trophies in his house, bare dollars in the bank, bare name brands on his back. Barefoot no more. He's a champion now. Bare people watch him on TV. Children. And as they watch him run, they dream. But in their dreams, bare feet kiss cool earth in soft shoes with a swoosh. Triple striped tops and shorts drink cool breeze, tangy, sweet, like cola or apple ties, because it pays to advertise. Hundreds, thousands, millions. Bare people buy bare brands. But at first sight of early morning light, an African child wakes, takes off for school. bare feet stepping on bare earth, cool breeze kissing bare skin, and as she runs, dreams. Thank you. Yeah. Yeah, there's some information coming up in the chat from Mike and from Shane. The man himself went on to do amazing things, and he's actually a national hero in Ethiopia. And this little story sort of rounds this off. I was doing a gig in Islington later that year, and I read this poem, and this very attractive African woman came up to me, and I thought, Baden, you still got it. And she said, I loved your poem. And I said, thank you. And she said, where were you from? I said, I'm from the Caribbean. And she said, how you know about our hero Bikela? And I said, well, somebody told me this story. And she said, can I have a copy of your poem? Because when I tell people back home that I was in London in a library and I met a Caribbean man who recited a poem that he wrote about our hero, nobody's going to believe me. And I thought, yeah, fair enough. So we went to the back office and I asked them if they'd photocopy it, and they did. And I only charged her 20 quid. No, I didn't. No. That's a joke. I didn't. I was so moved and so touched. And I subsequently had a similar experience at a gig in Brixton where a young Ethiopian guy came up to me and basically said the same thing, shook my hand, thanked me, and said, he's our hero. He's like, you know, he's a legend. He's like a god in Ethiopia because I've done some research on him on the internet. He's an amazing man. You know, he put his own money into building an athletics infrastructure, tracks, stadia, set up training programs and training camps. And, you know, he really walked the Olympic walk. He didn't just win the money and he wasn't in it for the fame. Amazing man. So that's the story of Abebe Bikala. And that's the story of my poem, Bare Feet. We're still having problems with Baba C. I had a phone call from Sola. I texted him and asked him where he was. He said he should be at home and logging in at around 6:30. So if you don't mind, I'm quite happy to carry on and tell you another story. You sure?
Baden, it's you're always welcome to tell another story.
You don't mean it. I don't believe you. You're not convincing me. Come on.
Yeah, I know, but
show me some love.
I'm still waiting for my bottle of rum.
About that. Well, okay, there were children present, so
we don't need to harp
see
on
the
about
evidence.
it, but I'm just reminding you.
You don't need to see the proof. So, welcome, a couple of new faces. Hi, Rashidat. Hi, Valentina. Where were you joining us from?
Hi, I'm in Nigeria.
Welcome. And Valentina? You need to unmute.
Hang on hi,
Yep.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
I'm in Canada.
Okay, welcome aboard. Welcome.
Thanks, yeah. I'm close to Toronto.
Okay, I've got family in Toronto. Welcome aboard.
Thank
Yes,
you.
Shane has made a very good point. All the way through that poem, there's a play on the meaning of the word beer, which is like London's, well, English street slang. And beer obviously means, you know, naked or uncovered. But in English street slang, it also means very much or a lot of. So when I say things like now he's got bare gold, now he's got nothing but gold. So if I say things like, oh, Baba C, man, that guy's got bare jokes, meaning that being around him is a lot of fun. He's a very entertaining individual. So yeah, the use of the word bear very much is a double play on his uncovered feet and yeah, the quantities that we're talking about. Good point. For an international audience, you kind of need to remember these little subtleties. So I'm probably not gonna have long once Sola gets here. So I'm gonna tell you a really entertaining story that I heard recently when I was doing another gig with another teller. And Sunday just gone, I told it to the most unlikely audience I've ever dealt with. It was two guys who turned up in the park to run a fitness training program. And these were proper macho men. You know, they made Shane look like a hairdresser. I'm not being funny, but you know, these two guys, they rode up on their mountain bikes with their big bag of kit, and they were proper geezers. Yaznama, a geezer is a certain type of man, very manly man, very, give me meat. No, don't cook it. Here, bring the cow. I will cut the meat from the cow myself. You know, we were proper, like, hardcore. And the friend that I was with had approached them because I was doing it with a friend of mine, Kath Drake, and we were just randomly accosting people and telling them stories and reciting poetry. It was brilliant out in the park in East London. And these two guys were kind of like, poetry? Yeah, go on then. You know, so she was timidly reading them this poem. And then I wandered over to join them. And she read this beautiful piece about a tree that she used to climb as a child. And it melted one of the guys because amazingly, she was talking about climbing to the top of this tree and finding this peaceful place. And then this guy just opened up and said that he at the present time, was having therapy, and that one of the outcomes of therapy was that he was being encouraged to find a quiet place within himself in his mind to go to. And the poem had encouraged him to think of the tree or of being in a tree as his new quiet place. I mean, it was a wonderful moment. And so I told the story about some naughty monkeys and the tree, but I see Sola is here. And Sola, are you ready for us? Or do you want me to, do you come on a couple of minutes to kind of settle yourself? Sola, can you hear us? I'm not sure. Hi, Sola, can you hear us?
Baden.
I can hear you now.
Okay, we can hear you as well. Shall I,
Excellent.
are you ready to go, or shall I go on for give you a minute to settle yourself?
I can go if you would like.
Okay, so guys, you're gonna
around trying to get his camera up.
Baba C's having problems. Yeah, he can see and hear us, but his sound is a bit iffy and he's having problems with his camera. Yeah,
And I think his sound is, Babasi needs to mute because I think his sound is what's given that crackle.
yeah, he's just muted now. So yeah, what I'm going to do is step aside. If there's time later, I might have a go at that story. Shola, we've had a request for some information about what is a griot, something about the griot tradition. I thought I would be better off leaving that to you and Babasi. Do you mind?
No, that's fine. That's fine.
See, he's even got the voice of a griot. Come on. Okay, over to you, Shola.
So you actually, do you just want the answer? Do you want, is it a story I'm telling, or I'm just giving you the answer to, or my take on what is a griot? Not so much the answer.
I think that first followed by a story would be excellent.
Okay. All right. Well, greetings, people. I'm sorry that I'm late, and I'm very glad to be here. I've just been rushing on tubes and overground trains, etc., to get from Southall to here. And the question, what is a griot? Well, first of all, a griot is something very specific, i.e., it is a traditional storyteller from the area amongst the Mandingo people and other peoples in Western Africa. There are traditional storytellers that are called griots, but not all traditional storytellers are called griots. And it's become a word that has been diversified to mean somebody who is a storyteller. However, the people who are actual griots are initiated into that tradition with that name. So there's two things really. There are the people who are from the lineage of griots, and then in the modern day, there are people who co-opt the term, because what we're doing is ancestral. It is coming from a specific place or a particular place, but it might not be the place in which the language of the term griot developed. For me, when I say griots, I'm talking, I mean, I would be better saying Ojise or Alake, which would be the terms from my own tradition, the Yoruba tradition. But I like the term griot because it speaks to a Pan-African tradition of storytelling, which at some point was in danger of being lost. But in the present day, there's a resurgence all over Africa regarding storytelling. And to answer the question properly, I think that it's worthwhile answering what is storytelling or what is myth. So myth, to the traditional African and to those of us who are in that tradition of storytelling, is more than fantasy made up stuff. Myths encode directives for human development, for human evolution, for civilization, not in terms of buildings and material expansion, but civilization in terms of cultivation of human dignity, of human awareness, and of human relationship, which is amongst the Yoruba, that equates more to civilization than does having cars and architecture and various other things. So for me, I am a person who has plugged into a tradition in order to communicate the wisdom of the past, the wisdom of the ancestors in the form that was used in humanity's first education modality, and that is the modality of storytelling. So that's what I mean when I say griot. But Babasi and Prince Baden may add other takes on that too, and you yourselves may have other interpretations as well. And it is really subject to interpretation. So I hope that does justice to the question. And with all these things, questions really are the wisdom, because the answer is really more questions. What is a griot? Well, what is a griot to you would be my answer to that. Story. So,
May I cut in, even though I'm not visual?
yeah, please do come in, Babasi.
Okay. So, Sola, you're right on point, and I agree with you 100%. And from the African American experience, griot has become extremely important because we teach through the art of storytelling. It is about wisdom. It is about knowledge. It is about, you can't tell everybody everything. That goes back to the antebellum pre-Civil War South. So the griot traditionally is a lineage thing. However, as an African American, my lineage has been so torn apart that the best I can do right now is to find genetic connections to places from the parent land. However, the tradition of teaching, educating, installing, preserving culture, promoting culture is wrapped up in the griot, aka storyteller. However, I feel that griots are kind of, well, we're storytellers plus. We don't just tell stories for the sake of telling stories. And as one of my, I work with a group called Kids Cultural Camp. And one of the things that we talk about is how the students are learning while they think they're just having fun. So the art of storytelling is often a way of teaching, although people, well, I often say, I guarantee people are going to have a good time, but if you're not careful, you might learn something new. So I just wanted to add that on. But Sola, you're so right on. And Baden, I think in your own right, you are a griot. You teach, you educate, you know. So I'm gonna pull an elder thing on you. You're a griot. And when an elder confers an honor upon you, you say, yes, sir, and keep it moving. I'm waiting.
Yes, sir, and keep
Did
it
he
moving.
freeze? Thank you. So I found out what my camera problem is. I have to isolate and find my camera, but I'm still here. I may have to sign out one more time, but I want to tell a story, camera or no, but not quite yet. So I cede the floor.
Okay.
That means I'm stopped talking.
Thank you, Babasi.
Sola,
For those,
go for it.
no
Because
problem.
there's an important event of some kind taking place
This evening,
elsewhere this evening, which means that our time is limited.
Okay.
Go for it. Let's hear you.
All right. I wonder what this event is. It's coming out. Anyway, what I will, I see that tickled Diana Pierce. I'm glad it tickled somebody. So the story I'm going to tell begins, as I always do, with in a place far from here, but near to there. There was a grandfather. This grandfather, he was a griot. He was so wise. People came from miles and miles around, even from overseas, in order to sample his wisdom. And as a result, he was also very successful, for they paid him for whatever it was that he gave them in terms of nuggets of wisdom. And they would go and they would come, and they would go and they would come, and they were always satisfied. Now, this grandfather, who was very wise, had a grandson. The grandson was not so wise. And the grandson would say to the grandfather on a regular basis, grandfather, I want to know how you got to be so wise and so successful. Furthermore, I want to know now. Now, I don't know what you all understand about African traditions, but in Africa, if you talk to your parents like that, you're taking a big risk, to speak less of your grandparents. But the grandfather would always respond in the same way. He would say, mm, mm, mm. Have patience, my son. Can we all say that, please? And make sure that when you say this, you waggle your finger. It's very important. It doesn't carry the same weight without the finger. So, mm, mm, mm. Have patience,
Patience,
My
son.
son.
And so the grandson would say, Grandfather, I am being very, very patient. Very patient. It's not a difficult thing I'm asking from you. I just want to know, how did you get to be so wise and so successful? And I want to know. No! And still, the grandfather looked at him calmly and get your finger ready and said, have patience, my son. And the grandson, it was a bit too much. He began to sweat. He shivered and shaked. His heart pounded in his chest and his tongue cleaved to his palate. So distressed was he. He said, Grandfather, Grandfather, I want to know, how did you get to be so wise and so successful? And I want to know, and he raised his hand. I want to know, and he raised his hand. I want to know now. And he smacks his grandfather on the side of the face. Your reaction is not good enough. That's it. Look at Baden Prince. That's the reaction. So let me say it again. He slapped his grandfather on the side of the face. Pow! So this time, the grandfather stood up and he began to walk. He said, follow me. And he began to walk. And the grandson was following him. But the grandfather just continued to walk. He did not look back. And the grandson followed him into the sea. But still, the grandfather walked. He did not look back. And the water rose up the grandson's body as he followed his grandfather. And when the water rose to the grandson's neck, he got scared. And he turned round to go back to the shore. And at that moment, the grandfather turned to and as swift as a snake, grabbed the grandson's head and pushed him under the water. And the grandson was under the water. And just at the moment that the grandson was about to drown, the grandfather lifted him up and carried him to the shore and laid him out on the shore. And the grandson, he came too. Grandfather, you tried to kill me. Why did you do that? And the grandfather said, my son, when you were under the water, about to drown, what did you want more than anything? What do you think he wanted at that point?
His grandfather.
To breathe?
He wanted his grandfather, yes. What did you say? Did I hear somebody say to breathe? Yes.
Yeah,
okay.
And to live.
He wanted to breathe in order to live. Exactly. So the grandson said, I wanted to breathe. I wanted air. I wanted air. And the grandfather said to him, my son, if you are ever going to be successful, you must want it in the same way that you wanted to breathe. But above that, above all else, have patience, my son. The end.
That's great.
I love that story, and especially because I feel that it is in direct relationship with what Babasi just said about stories being a wisdom teaching tool. So I have used that story many times with young people in all types of schools. And as Babasi said, they get engrossed in the story. And when they're engrossed, well, I'll give you a little, if you like, a little jingle acronym, which is IPC, Imagination, Participation, Commitment. So when I'm with these young people, if I can stimulate their imagination, they begin to participate. And it is a short hop from participation to commitment. So that's one of the ways that the Griot shares their wisdom. Thank you so much, people.
Beautiful work, Sola. Babasi, tell me the grandma
Yes.
left you alone. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, and what gets me is that they attack not only this platform, but my backup platform, and then my cameras, all three of them.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah. So, if I may, let me tell a quick story. Fingers crossed. This was supposed to be an interactive story, but in consideration of time, I'm going to do a kind of shorter version. Okay, and hopefully Princess J is still with us, because this story, she kind of inspired me to tell the story. This is a story about why the buzzard is an ugly bird, but it's also a story about, well, if I tell you that, there's no need to tell the story. You see, a long time ago, the buzzard was a very lazy bird, but it was a very beautiful bird, brilliant feathers, brilliant bird. He was laying after the health. He got tired of always trying to fight for his food, and he wanted to eat and digest. So he had a plan. He decided he was only going to eat the children. They were weak, but they were juicy, and they couldn't put up much of a fight. So the buzzard was flying around. He was looking for his first victim, and he saw his first victim. And his first victim was a rabbit, a little baby rabbit. And so he flew down to the rabbit and he said, "Hey, hello, rabbit. Have you ever touched the clouds?" And the rabbit said, "No, I can jump high, but I can't jump that high." "Well, if you get on my back, I'll take you to the clouds, and you can play with the clouds." The rabbit said, okay. And he jumped on the vulture's back, and the vulture began to fly, and it flew higher and higher. And the people down the village looked up and saw the baby rabbit on top of the vulture, and they were doing like this. Everybody do like this. They were doing like this. And the rabbit said, "What are they saying in the village?" "They're saying for me to go higher, higher." They go higher, higher. And they went higher, and the rabbit started playing with the clouds. He said, "But I got to go home now." And the vulture said, "Oh, I'll take you home." And the vulture zoom went into a deep dive, and he kept going faster and faster and faster until he came close to a tree, and he stopped suddenly. Well, the vulture stopped, but the baby rabbit didn't, and the baby rabbit smacked into the tree. And we know what happened. And the vulture had lunch. The vulture said, "That was easy. Catching babies is easy. Catching little children is easy. Yeah, they're not too smart." And so the people in the village got together, and the mother started saying, don't be going anywhere with that vulture. Don't go anywhere with that vulture." And the father said, "You heard your mother." And so there was a little flying squirrel. And the flying squirrel was leaping from tree to tree, flying from tree to tree. And the vulture sat on a big branch near him. He said, "Hey, squirrel, you ever played in the clouds?" "No, I'm a flying squirrel, but I can't fly that high. But if you get my back, I'll take you to the clouds." I'm not really supposed to go with you." "Oh, come on, it's just a short ride. We'll play with the clouds. I'll bring you right back." "Well, okay." And he gave the vulture's back. And they went way up in the clouds, and the baby and flying, wee, wee. But then he looked down and saw the people in the village. I gotta go home now. And the vulture said, "Oh, I'll take you home." And he went into a dive, zoom, zoom. And he went to the same tree. Bam! We know what happened. The vulture had its meal. By now, the mothers in the village are telling the children, "Don't you no way, no when, unless I tell you you can. Do you understand me?" "Yes, ma'am, yes, 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 ma'am." And the father said, "You heard your mother." So it was a monkey. And the monkey was playing around and climbing up trees and jumping from branch to branch and going to the ground and just having a good time. And the vulture said, "Hey, monkey, you ever played in the clouds?" The monkey said, "No, I'm not supposed to talk to you. You bad. You bad to the bone. You bad. I'm not supposed to be around you." "Oh, come on now. I'm talking to you. I'm just talking. I was going to offer to take you to play with the cloud. My mama said I can't go no place with you. No how, no when, unless she doesn't. Well, get her back and I'll take you to your mama. And if she says it's okay, we'll go play in the cloud." And the monkey thought, okay. And the monkey got on his back and the vulture started flying toward the mothers. And then at the last moment began to go up in the air. And the mother's like, "No, no, no." And the father's like, "No, no, no." And the baby monkey's going, "What's going on? What's going on?" "Oh, that's your parents telling me it's okay, but we need to go higher. We need to go." "Well, then go higher, go higher." And they went way up in the clouds. And the monkey started playing with the clouds and having a good time. And he said, "You know what? I got to go home now because, I really should have asked my mama first, but she said it was okay, but I got to go home now." And the vulture said, "Okay, I'll take you home. I'll take you home." And he went zoom, zoom, going faster and faster and faster toward the same tree. And he got toward the tree and he stopped suddenly. But you see, when he started going zoom, zoom, and going into the dive, the monkey wrapped his tail around the vulture's neck. And so the monkey shot forward and then back on the vulture's neck and kept squeezing and squeezing and squeezing. And the vulture's eyes began to bulge out, and the vulture couldn't breathe, and it collapsed and it fell to the ground. And the monkey fell on top of the vulture. The vulture, "Let me go, let me go, let me go." "Oh, you bad man, you bad man, you bad, you bad. I'm not letting you, I'm not letting you go, I'm not letting you." And he squeezed and squeezed and squeezed, and this little got extended between the tail and the more baby monkey. I promise. I don't believe you. But just please. And he squeezed so hard the vulture passed out. When the vulture passed out, the little monkey went home. And his mama got him, and what was left of him, his daddy got him. And the lack of air got to his feathers, and the went from being pretty and brilliant to dull and his lump in his throat, and his eyes were all big, and even he changed. He was no longer a pretty animal. He was what a lot of people call unsightly, because I'm too polite to say. And he tried to even go after baby animals. And to this day, the vulture waits for everybody else to be finished with their meal, and he gets what's left. But the lesson of the story is, you need to listen to your parents. And if you're thinking about doing something wrong, don't be like the vulture. Straighten up and fly right. Asante.
That was wonderful, buddy.
Babasi, you're the man. You're the man. Can I send us home? Even though the sound was in between, I mean, that's just the power of your telling. We all got that story. Beautiful, beautiful and brilliant.
Yes,
Yeah.
indeed.
Yeah. Can I finish?
My sound kept going out?
But we got the story.
No,
Not going out.
it just got mashed up a bit, but the story came through fine.
You carried it. You carried
Thank
it.
you, thank you, thank you.
Can I, as we're talking about grandfathers and parents and learning from elders, can I just very quickly tell you a little learning tale from my grandfather?
Please do. Please do.
My grandfather, we called him Papa.
By all means.
I was raised by my grandparents, and we called my grandfather was called Papa. But privately, us kids, I grew up in a house with a whole bunch of cousins who'd been variously sent back or left in the Caribbean. And Papa used to love to eat a whole fish. And his favorite bit of the fish was the head. And when he'd finished with the head, he'd crack the skull and suck out the brains. And us little kids, we used to gather around him when he ate it. Sometimes, you know, we'd get a little treat. And we would go, "Ew!" And he'd always say to us, "Why are you going here? That's the best part of the fish. That's why I'm so smart." So privately, among ourselves, never to his face. I mean, you know, come on. Our nickname for him was Brains, because he used to like to eat fish brains. And we were always trying to gang up on him and outsmart him. He used to make these little wooden stools that we'd use in the yard for utilities, you know, cleaning fish and doing this and that. And one day he was cleaning one of them. And then we had to go somewhere and do something. And we were like, "But Papa, if you're going to clean that, you know, it's going to be wet and it's going to take ages to dry. And there's not going to be enough time to do so-and-so." And he said, "Nonsense. I'm going to wash it, clean it, and I'm going to go and do what I'm doing. I am going to count to 3. 1, 2, 3. And by the time I come back, that stool is going to be dry." Well, we all went off into a little huddle and we thought, no, we've got him. This time, we've got him. Brains has lost his brains. How can that stool dry by the time he count to 3? And we talked about it every which way. We said, no, we got him. So he invited us to take the bet. The bet was, when he came back with this bag of fish, if we won the bet, he would have to clean the whole bag of fish by himself. If he lost the bet, we would have to sit down out there in the hot sun and clean the fish. No way could we lose this bet. 1, 2, 3, didn't matter how hot the sun was. We had this one. We said, yes, we'll take the bet. He washed the board. He put it up against the side in the sun, shining blank on it. And we all gathered around and we're like, yes. And he came out and he went, 1. Turned on his heel and walked out of the yard, leaving 7 or 8 kids standing or looking at one another going, half an hour later, he comes back with this big bag of fish, walks over to the stool, which is nice and dry, touches it to make sure, turned around to us and he went, 2, handed us the bag of fish and said, 3. That's the last time well, it wasn't the last time I would try to outsmart an elder, but didn't stop me trying, but there you go. Yep.
That reminds me of
thank you.
that-
Thank
Go
you,
ahead, Don.
everyone.
That is funny.
Brilliant. Baden, thank you. And thank you for holding the fort earlier, Baden, when the internet gremlins were, and the transport gremlins were trying to prevent us from having this program. But gremlins or not, Sola defeated the transport gremlins, Babasi defeated the internet gremlins, and Baden Prince held it all together. Right, so a round of applause for all 3, please. And it's been a fantastic evening. Thank you all. And I'm just going to do my last set actually out in the field. Babasi, are you there? Raise your head. Babasi, I want to use your story in about half an hour to whoever comes. Am I allowed?
I think his camera's frozen, but he's actually nodding up and down and saying yes.
Okay, that's cool. But it's been amazing.
We've got to do this again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Rashidad, it's just been amazing to have you here as audience. And I can't, because I'm doing this, I'm actually running the cafe at the moment because I'm back on the road. So I'm running the whole thing from my phone. So I can only see about 4 people at a time. So whoever you are and wherever you are, and all these brilliant people that are here, thank you very much for coming. Thank you, Baba C. Thank you, Sola,
Thanks for coming,
and
folks.
thank you, Baden. And
Thank you so much.
We will all get together in life, out of the internet. What I need to do is put together an international storytelling circus that travels the world. We'll get Ali's magic carpet and we'll go on Ali's magic carpet. But thank you, Ali, of course, for running it as always.
Thank you so much.
Big round of applause.
Okay.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Mike,
Fantastic.
Mike, talk to me about that message. I have no idea who the guy is. I'd like to find out. Okay?
Take care, people. Have a very
Sola.
good
Take
Sunday.
care. See you all soon.
Thanks, Sola.
Yeah.
Okay.
Cheers,
Sola,
Right.
don't be a stranger. Bye.
I won't be a stranger. I can't be a stranger.
No. Visit us often.
Oh.
Okay.
All right.
Fantastic.
Hopefully see you soon, Baden.
Abimbola.
Take care, Shane.
Yes.
Remember, I owe you a gig.
Okay.
Yes.
Remember.
So really excited to see you and hear you, my Yoruba brother, or my Yoruba uncle, Egmo. I salute.
Ah, bless.
Yeah.
Great stuff.
I'm looking forward to hearing you tell stories.
I hope to soon, and I do hope to share all your stories. I hope I'm permitted to the children I teach.
Yes,
They're
you
all
are
wonderful
permitted.
stories.
Absolutely,
Thank
you're
you
permitted.
so much. Thank
Yeah.
you, Baden. Thank you, Shola. And as usual, thank you, Baba.
Rashidad,
Bye, Shane.
next time, Rashidad, we need to do this program again, but we need to have you in because so it's not just men.
Yes,
And
indeed.
so you will be. There's no way you can't
need some
leave it to your
smart tellers.
children all the time to tell stories.
Yeah.
No,
So
I will tell more stories. I look
Yeah,
forward to
but
it.
it would be great to have you on with Shola and Baba C and Baden. I mean, it would just make a great program. So
Mhm.
I'd love that to happen.
Yeah, not just old
Thanks.
people.
Hey, don't call Baden and Baba C old. It's not fair.
He did not just say that.
He might have done. I couldn't possibly comment.
No, he didn't.
And
I know.
Ali's back on in person, so thank you, Ali, for
Time to go.
the
Thanks,
carpet
Ali.
tonight.
Good night,
Fantastic,
all.
great job.
Take care, people.
Bye.
Let's see if it is coming home.
Yeah, come on, England. Yeah.
Be good, people.
Ciao.
Take care.
Ciao.
Okay.